Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Now that we're done with the offseason, how would you assess where you guys are as a group? Have you got everything that you wanted to accomplish?
I don't know if you ever get it all accomplished. I feel really, really good about the offseason program. I'm going to start with the connection of the guys. Offense, defense, special teams, coaches, players, new faces, new personalities. Feel really good about that. I feel like we've just spent time doing things in the building, away from the building, getting to know each other. I think there's been multiple events. All the coaches in different sides of the ball have gotten together away from the building. I think every position group has done that, and that's so important. So I think that's been amazing. I think getting the system in place in all three of those phases is really important. I love where we're at, right now offensively, just in terms of the changes and the adjustments and things that we're going to do. I feel really good about that. Defensively, I love what Flus has brought from a mentality and a mindset. It's hard to see that right now because we're limited, but the intentionality and the aggressive nature and the way they run to the ball is fascinating to me and has been well respected by me for a long time. And of course with Nick and Carlos with the special teams, just really with the three pieces coming back, Trent, Banger, and Brandon, seeing him put his fingerprint on that has been really, really excited. A lot of work to do. Some of the young guys, they've got to use these next 5 weeks to get caught up. There's a few guys that specifically, know they're a little bit behind. That's normal this time of year. They missed the first, 5 weeks or 4 weeks, I guess, of the offseason program, phase 1 and phase 2. But they have their work cut out for them in a good way. And the good news is the way the installations go is OTA 1 is the same as training camp 1 and OTA 2 and so on and so on. So they're hearing the information really in, for multiple times the same way. And I think that's important. That's something that I've believed in for a long time.
As a first-year head coach, obviously you have your plan of how you want to do things. How much have you had to tweak things as you've gone through this process?
There's always tweaks. I'm always evaluating things. I think I'm always looking for better ways to do things. I think I'm real big into what I call AARs, after action reports. After anything that we do, we kind of fill out an AAR. Okay, what'd you do well? What do you need to do better? What did you learn from it? A lot of people do that after games, but I think you have to do it. We did it after the draft, and we did it after phase 1, and we did it after phase 2, and now that, minicamp and really phase 3 is over, we'll do the same thing as a staff, and there'll be things that we'll take forward next year when we look back and we're planning for the offseason program to say, hey, let's do this, let's implement that. Hey, didn't really like that. Let's move on from that. So I think you got to stay curious.
Clarence Hill, DLLS Cowboys. First of all, who's behind?
Say again?
Who you said was behind the black catcher?
Say what?
Who was behind?
Oh, who? Oh, well, let me give you the names.
Diggs coming in. Certainly, the uncertainty around when he will be ready. Can you just talk about that? How does impacted your plans at cornerback, if it has at all, and what you're doing, and when do you think he'll be ready to go?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to get into when he's going to be ready. You don't know. He's got to maximize these next 40 days or whatever it is, five weeks, and it's been great having him back. It's been great having him with Britt. Trust his plan, trust the work, but to put a timetable on it, not going to do that. In terms of the importance of training camp, when he's ready, he'll be ready. Again, it gives opportunities for guys like Kalen Carson, Troy Pride, Kyrie Elam's doing great. So it's given us a chance to evaluate some of the younger players while Trayvon gets back and gets ready. And that's kind of when a guy gets injured, you hate it. But it does open the door for other guys, and you get a chance to evaluate guys that maybe you don't get a chance to see. And they'll get real reps. In training camp, and you'll see them going against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and guys like that, which is a big part of the evaluation, seeing the good guys against the good guys. And I think that's something that those guys are excited about.
Now that Pickens been here a month, you guys had a chance to really be around him more so than just the early stuff. Everybody's putting the right foot forward. What have you learned about him that you didn't know? What has impressed you about him that you've seen?
he comes to work every day with a smile on his face. You know, he's very personable when you get to know him. I love being around him. I love talking to him about life. I love shooting baskets against him. I love just watching his, I talk to him a lot about, ball and his experiences at Pittsburgh and what he likes and what he doesn't like. And, he's been amazing. He was the last guy to leave the practice field today. I think that speaks volumes of the fact that he's excited about what we're building. And, I'm a big GP fan.
Brian Schottenheimer with ESPN. Earlier you said you like a lot where you are offensively. What do you like the most about where you are?
I think, we got through the installs, which was good. Today was kind of like the final exam. What do I mean by that? It's like in college when, you have your build up to the big test at the end. We basically took the 9-10 installs that we had and we did a call-it period at the end, which basically we broke the team up. 2's on one side, 1's on the other, just mix and match in different pieces. And we just put the ball down and called it. I called one side, Clayton called the other, Flus called one side, Andre called the other, and just anything was at our beck and call. So we could go to whatever we want. It could be OTA 1 install, could be OTA 3 install, could be OTA 5 install, and I think it's a good way of checking ourselves with where we are in terms of the command of the system. Remember, the objective is you put all these plays in, but when they go play, they got to play. There's a thing called player's mind, which means when they go out there to play, they can't be thinking about, okay, what's my split, what's my alignment, what's my depth, what's my protection rule. It's got to be where they're free to play and think and react. They're the greatest athletes in the world, and so if you bog them down with too many things where they're thinking about being perfect and robotic, then they're not going to play, a million miles an hour. And so I think I felt like that. I haven't seen the film yet with the 2s. I felt like the 1s showed great command of what we've done, and we pulled from really all the different installs, and that gets me excited.
And then Dak every year takes his skill guys on a trip. Obviously, there's a camaraderie part of that, but is it more important maybe this year because CD's been around this offseason, wasn't around last year, Pickens is new, that trip maybe takes on added importance at all?
Yeah, I think that trip's just awesome in general, Todd. I think it's for a lot of reasons. They work. I mean, you guys probably see some of the videos. I know I see some of the videos. I mean, they work. They put the time in. They talk a lot of ball. They do a lot of team building stuff, which is great. But make no mistakes, they're there to spend time to get to know each other and on a deeper level. They know each other, but again, it's the time away from the grass that I get excited hearing them talk about. It's some of the team building stuff they do, some of the conversations that they have. Those are the things. Actually, when I follow up with Dak, after they do it, and just check in with him. I mean, those are the things when he comes back to training camp, I like to ask about that. Like, what'd you guys talk about? Like, what was the cool things? Like, the ball stuff's the ball. But it's really more them spending the time together that matters to me. And I think there'll be a great turnout like there always is.
John Schottenheimer with The Athletic. For you personally, how different or maybe the same will these next month and a half be between now and the start of training camp?
I'll definitely get away a little bit. I think it's important to recharge your battery. It's a long season. It's been a long year. When you take a job like this, you don't really get a long break. But the biggest change for me is instead of having to look over 45 guys in terms of staying in contact and reaching out, now you got 90 guys. And not only 90 guys, but you got a full staff. And so I'll be busy, making phone calls and checking in. I might have a shotty in hand and sitting on the beach somewhere, but doesn't mean I can't, make a couple phone calls and check in with everybody. And I called the guys up today and I told them, hey, a couple things is number one, take care of yourself, take care, your families, hang with the ones you love, and then I told them I love them, and I got a little emotional. These guys gave us everything that we've asked for this spring, and I think they'll do that when we get started out in Oxnard.
And OTAs and minicamp combined, what would you say has been the thing that you've enjoyed the most as your first kind of OTAs minicamp as a head coach?
Yeah, the way we ran. The way the energy and the effort that we put out on the practice field. There's a lot of ways to do it now. It's funny. You look around and Some teams barely practice at all. Some teams don't wear helmets. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but I would say the way these guys have taken to the way we tried to teach them how to practice has been really, really cool. And I think we showed that you can throw a hell of a practice in an OTA tempo without having guys on the ground, without having collisions. I just feel like as a whole, they took the instruction that we gave them, they applied it, and they did it at a really, really fast level. And that makes me happy, makes me proud for them.
Nick Harris, Forward Star Telegram. When did you start seeing the buy-in from all the guys? And was it player-led? Do you feel like it was something maybe you did, or when did that gradually come about?
I don't think it's anything I've done. I think it's and I don't know. I mean, from the first meeting that we had in the locker room, I think there was a excitement. Is it about me? I don't know. I think it's about the energy that they feel around the building. It's real. It's tangible. We got a great group of guys, man, and they work. I mean, to have perfect attendance in mandatory minicamp and whatever it was, 90-something% attendance in the off-season program, and that's something that we should be proud of. I don't know what the other teams are doing. Don't really care, quite honestly, but this team and this locker room in general is made up of the right people, and that gives you a chance. Doesn't guarantee us a damn thing, but it gives you a chance. And it tells you that, okay, great, we're going to go out to Oxnard, and then we're going to actually be able to put on pads and practice and play real football, and then we'll know a little bit more about where we stack up against the rest of the league.
We just went to Dak today, and he talked a little bit about he's not really worried about legacy. He's just worried about winning a championship. Being in this building, having that kind of weighing over everything, that trophy. Have you had discussions with Dak about legacy and your many conversations with him? And, what does legacy mean for you?
I think legacy, well, no. The first answer is no. Dak and I haven't really talked about, his legacy or a legacy in general. We just talk about what it takes to win, the work ethic and the sacrifice you have to make to win. I think that's relevant in any field that you guys are in. You guys are all obviously very successful at what you do, and there's sacrifice and there's time spent. And so we talk a lot about that. This is one of the hardest working players I've ever been around. Talking about Dak, of course. Legacy to me, I think it starts with people. To this day, I go out on the field for a game, and I will have 2 or 3 different individuals come up to me and say, "Excuse me, Coach, you have a second?" And I know exactly where they're going, and I, of course, drop what I'm doing because I want to hear it. And they say, "Your father changed my life." And it's former players. And so he never won a Super Bowl. Won over 200 games in the NFL, but I would put his legacy up against anybody that's ever coached in the National Football League.
Patrick.
Hey, Shai. Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. As a first-year NFL head coach, I mean, you saw as the OC last year just how Tyler Guyton struggled to stay healthy because of just what's required of guys coming out of college, going through the combine process, and then going right into an NFL training camp. What's your message to your rookies in your first year as head coach to tell them, hey, you can get balance, physical rest with staying in shape and staying ready for training?
Yeah, great question. We address it all the time. The position coaches address it all the time. Lean on the veterans. Talk to them. We have mentors and mentees that we kind of align together where you ask a younger player to, okay, you're going to spend some time with this veteran player and talk to them about routine. They all need to get away. They all need to get a little bit of a break, right? It's a long season. But if they don't have a plan, then they will not be ready. Talking about the young players, of course. So, Donovan talked to me the other day. Ezraku talked to me, and he said, hey, Coach, these next 5 weeks, what do I need to be doing? Like, what do I do? And I said, I have my thoughts. I said, and I'll give you my thoughts. But first, you go talk to Solomon Thomas, because Solomon Thomas has been doing it physically more than I have. And so he has a great routine. And if you don't like what Solomon says, then go talk to Dak Prescott, go talk to Micah Parsons, go talk to whoever. And so I think that's the best thing that these guys can do is lean on the guys that have done it. But if they don't have a plan, then they will fail. And I've had a couple of the younger guys, not to be named, up into my office and tried to asked them if they could give me their plan, and some were better than others. But we're working through it. So I feel really good about this rookie class. The effort they gave was incredible. But these next 40 days are really, really important for them.
Scholar.
Skyler Dixon with DAP. You just mentioned your dad. As you go into your first break as a head coach, summer break, think back to all those years as an assistant, do you feel like you're in the place you're supposed to be right now as you get ready to take a little break and head toward your first camp?
I'm excited. I'm very excited. I'm excited that the offseason program went as well as it did. I'm excited with the connection piece that we've made. I'm excited about how these guys have competed. I think it's a really, really special group of young men that have a common purpose, a common goal. But I'm also really excited to spend some time with my family. This has been, rightfully so, a long 6 and 7 months. And so I'm going to spend some time with my son and my daughter and my wife. And I won't be too far away from my iPad and my phone. But you have to do this, and our players have to do that. Family's important. And when you're hanging around the ones that you love, that's not just your family. That's the guys in our inner circle. That's the guys in the locker room. And so there'll be things that I'm doing with our players and their wives and their girlfriends over the break. It's not just where I go disappear. I'm not doing that. I love these guys. I want to be around these guys. And so, there'll be some nights, I'm sure, when I'm laying in bed on vacation and thinking back to, how this offseason has gone. Has it been perfect? No. Has it been really good? Yeah, it's been really good. And I think we've put ourselves in a great position to capitalize on the momentum of a strong player acquisition piece, going back to free agency and the draft, and then watching these guys practice for the last 4 weeks has been incredible.
Brad Sham, 105.3 The Fan. You've got a new coaching staff with a lot of young guys who don't know each other, have not known each other. What's been the challenges and the progress you've seen in them, John?
One thing that we pride ourselves on doing as a staff, and when I say the staff, talking about myself and the coordinators, we always want to coach the coaches. We look for opportunities for the younger coaches to get up in front of position groups and lead meetings and do things, and we give them projects all the time because we're going to win. And when we win, our coaching staff is going to get rated and people are going to come after our coaches because we're going to win. And so the thought is you develop the guys in the building that you believed in enough to hire and bring here and begin to talk about your culture and your vision and things like that. And then you give them opportunities to watch them teach and watch them run the defensive back room or the linebacker room. And then you give them feedback. And that feedback sometimes is criticism. Hey, do this better. But a lot of times it's more, well, what were you thinking? Like, for example, Clayton today. He's not a young coach, but him calling plays today, at the other end of the field. Like, he's never called plays before. So I asked him how it went. He said, man, I did good. I got messed up on one. Would have been a timeout. Would have been a timeout. But I think, we're always trying to develop everybody. And we've got some tremendous young coaches. And what they bring in energy and juice, we want to reward that energy and juice that they bring every day by giving them valuable football knowledge that makes them a better coach, more seasoned in fundamentals, better with scheme, better understanding. And I think that's a huge part of the position I sit in to make sure you're always developing your staff from top to bottom.
Is the familiarity and cooperation between and among them more organic or more or less important than it is for the players?
I think we have really hard conversations as a staff, and I think what I will say is this group has blended together really, really fast. Think about, we've got coaches from Chicago, of course, coaches from Dallas, coaches from San Francisco, coaches from Arizona, coaches from college. So I would say, you bring in all these people into a room and a family, and that's, I think, where the off-season program, when I look back, I really like, I could have started the off-season program a week earlier. I didn't. But I think that decision paid off tremendously because it bought us an extra week as a staff to blend the group together and to get on the same page with how we want to say things. Like it's not who's talking in front of the room. It's that the message is being delivered the same way. And so I feel like, this group from a relationship standpoint is very strong. We trust one another. We have really good, hard conversations. We don't agree on everything. They challenge me, which is what I want. I don't want yes men. I don't have all the answers. Never have thought I have all the answers. But I love the fact that we can have real conversations. And then once the conversation's over and we decide whatever direction we're going, whether it's the decision I made, someone else made, it's a Cowboys decision. And the players will never know that discussion even happened because it's what's best for us to win.
Garrett
Podell, CBS Sports. Brian, I know you said you can't get a lot out of seeing running backs not in pads and things like that, but what have been your evaluations of Javonte, Miles, Jaden Blue, and the group through the offseason program with us?
Yeah, I'll start with Javonte. Can't say enough great things about him. The way he practices, the way he approaches practice, though, you guys know I love the word, the intentionality. I think that's for a younger player. A couple years in, he's figured it out. I don't know. I've never asked him. I should ask him, hey, who did you learn from? Because somebody taught him how to practice. He's awesome with that. Miles has been great as well. You feel the veteran side of both those guys. Like they're veterans. They know how to work. They know how to prepare. It was funny. I was talking. I was calling a play yesterday to Dak, and I was telling him to remind. I can't remember if it was Javonte or Miles. I think it was Javonte maybe. And I said, "Hey, remind Javonte." And he kind of looked at me. He said, "He's a valedictorian." And Javonte looked back and smiled. It was Javonte. But like, there's something to these veteran players, that does help. And so they've been great because they've been helping Jaden and Phil. And again, those two young guys, again, they have a lot to learn in a good way. They're used to, most college guys are. They get to line scrimmage really fast and they look over and they look for what? Signs. And there's guys holding up boards and signs and signals and things like that. Now they're in a huddle and doing things like that. So a lot of it is you've got to learn how to break down these lengthy calls and, okay, what matters to me and what doesn't. And I think those guys have done great. Deuce is Deuce, man. Every day the guy works his ass off. Every day. He knows what he's doing. We love the cross-training stuff we're doing with him and Hunter Lepke. We have to value these players to where they do more than one thing. So whether it's Deuce Vaughn playing receiver, Hunter Lepke playing tight end, Terp playing running back, you have to cross-train these guys because on game day, we're only allowed a certain amount of guys. And unfortunately, it's such a physical game that if we don't start doing that now, it's going to hurt you when you get going into the season.
And a quick follow-up, you were in the locker room during Micah Parsons and Joey Toya's ping pong game. You were pretty locked in. Is that kind of what you envision, the whole locker room kind of locked in and yelling and hooting and hollering together in a moment like that?
I think so. It's compete every day, and they were having fun with it. There was a lot of trash talk going on. I want to play Micah. I beat Dak all the time when I play him, so Micah's next. I'll put that out there for Micah, see if he wants to accept the challenge over the break. But, I thought Jay had him. And then just couldn't finish him.
Jonah
Javad, WFAA. You brought up your father, Marty. Sunday is Father's Day. I'm just curious how you celebrate now as a father yourself. But also, how do you honor his life legacy now that he's gone? And if there's anything that you could say to him now, what would it be?
Wow. You're going there, huh? Last day of minicamp. I know he's proud. I miss him. I would tell him that I used all the life lessons that he taught me, not just about football, but about life and being a good man and a good husband and a good father, and that I think I'm doing okay for myself. But I know he's proud. I miss him like crazy. I actually lean on some of his friends now, guys like Bill Cowher, that he, coached with. And but Father's Day will be a special day. I'm obviously a father of two amazing kids, and I'll talk to my mom, and I know he's looking down on me, but I appreciate you making me get teared up, up here the last day of minicamp. And I'm going to change the subject real quick. Make sure you guys keep this note. The 2025 offseason program sharpshooting champion is none other than Sam Williams. You guys have no idea what that means, but he is the 2025 offseason program sharpshooting champion, and he beat Tyler Guyton. So,
What does he get for winning?
big trophy. Can't believe you guys didn't see it down there.
What are we shooting?
Say again?
What are we
Baskets.
shooting? Baskets.
Yeah, baskets.
Okay.
Yeah, he got hot. Yeah, he got hot. Big upset.
Coach, I want to follow up on the question about your dad. When you look at this offseason as a whole, your first time as a head coach, is there a particular moment that would be the first story you would tell your dad if you could speak to him here?
Where my mind went when you first asked that question? Not really. I would say the one thing, we're obviously an emotional family, and I was really nervous going into the press conference. Big moment. You've been waiting for your whole life, and Tad and them didn't tell me it was out here. I thought it was in here. I was like, oh, it'd be cool. It'd be 50 or so people in there, whatever. But I didn't know it was out there. But so I kind of came out of Jerry and Steve and walked me down, and I saw my family. But when I turned the corner, I saw the players, all the players that were here, and he would know the fact that all those players showed up that I'm doing it the right way. I'm doing it through connection. I'm doing it through love. I'm doing it through juice and energy, and that actually calmed me down. It really did. I was nervous and excited at the same time. When I saw all those players waiting for me right around the corner, it totally put me at peace. So that was cool.
Tim Cowlishaw, Dallas Morning News. I had a question that kind of got blown away by these last two questions about your dad. What I wanted to ask, was, it's not that emotional. when you were 12,
You're choking me up already. I mean, you want my water, Tim?
I'm not on TV anymore. I don't have to worry about talking.
He's retired.
When you were 12 or 13, the drive and the fumble,
Yeah.
those seasons,
Yeah.
how they ended. And I'm just wondering how that impacted seeing those teams that were tremendously successful, and the city of Cleveland was going crazy over them. See it end like that.
Devastating.
What's that been for you?
Devastating. The amount of work and effort that goes into putting together a great season. I think the year of the drive, they were the 1 seed. I think they were 12-4. I know they're a really good team, and how they got there was crazy. I mean, people don't even remember the Jets playoff game right before that. Mark Mosley missed a couple field goals, and then he hit one, the last one, the game winner. Just devastating. And I remember, I was fortunate my dad kept me involved in a lot of this stuff, which is where the family piece comes in. But I remember after the game going down in the locker room, and just the feeling just felt like it was a funeral. And then when you get older and you get into the business, Tim, you're like, you get it. I mean, the sacrifices that these young men make with their time, their body, their health, all those things, to commit to something, a dream, a vision, a goal, and to be so close and to have it come up short in one of really two of the most devastating. The drive wasn't as bad as the fumble. The fumble was worse because, again, for those that remember, a little bit of a football historian, I guess, but they were down 21-3 at halftime. They came ripping back in Denver the very next year. Ernest Biner, the stats, I don't remember the stats, but it was incredible. He went crazy in the second half and got them back into the game. And to lose the way they did on a simple play. Again, it happens, but Webster Slaughter, he's the single receiver, and he's got man-to-man with Jeremiah Castillo, and he goes to run him off and probably didn't run him off far enough, and so Jeremiah looks back, and when Ernest bounced the ball to the left, I remember like it was yesterday. It's crazy, I can remember all these things. But literally, he never saw him. He came from the side, and Ernest never saw him. And when you look at the film, if you pull up the highlight today, you can see the absolute misery of Ernest, which he had laid his heart and soul out on the field. And he's laying there at the 1 yard line, devastated. And I think it was Cody Rise, and I won't be right, but a player went and picked him up. and supported him. And without that, you have nothing. And that's why you guys ask me all the time about the connection piece and stuff like that. Like, these things that these young men try to do around the league, not just here, it's different. I mean, they commit something and they give it their all. Not for money, not for fame and things like that. Yeah, that's nice, but they do it because they love one another. And those are ones that stick with you. Obviously, with the fact I've taken up 5 minutes this press conference rehashing those two plays.
Right, Sadis with The Athletic. Just want to ask you about Cooper Beebe. Last year he was making the transition from guard to center. This year, as you see him growing in that role, how do you see the mental aspects of IDing front, setting protections, things like that, and where he's at mentally playing the position?
Sad, he was incredible last year for having never played the position. The biggest thing was not learning. The learning's easy. It's the communication, Now with some of the things that we're doing, in terms of movements and stuff, like pre-snap movements and stuff. The challenge for him, which he's passing with flying colors, has been you sometimes make a point, and then you got to make a different ID or a point. But the command of what he has now is really cool to see. And, like, he and Dak actually have gone back and forth a couple times where it's like, Cooper's like, we're going here. Dak's like, no, I want to go there. Cooper's like, no, we're going here. Dak's like, yeah, go there. We're good. Yeah. Whereas last year that wouldn't have happened. So there's a command and a confidence that Cooper has. And, I'm a huge Cooper Beebe fan, but I'm also a big believer on the importance of a center. Some of the best teams I've ever been on, I'll talk about the New York Jets, was having a guy like Nick Mangold in the middle, driving things. And you go back, to the great Steelers teams, Mike Webster. I mean, the center position, some people blow it off. They touch the ball on every play. And if you don't have the right one, man, it's hard. And he's certainly the right one.
Nick.
We've seen a lot of Brevin Spann-Ford in these offseason availabilities. Him taking a year 2 jump in the receiving game specifically, how big would that be for your tight end?
Be amazing. He had an incredible offseason. He really did. Really all the tight ends did, but since you asked about Brev, I'll talk about him. The size alone, he moves really well. I think he added like 6 or 7 pounds of lean muscle mass. This guy is not just a run blocker, pass protector. This guy can be a weapon because of his size in the middle of the field, matched up on linebackers and safeties. And, the thing I've loved about Brev from day one is you knew that this was not too big for him. You knew mentally, he knew, I belong here. Doesn't matter, how I got here. I belong here. And he's pushing Fergie and Scooney and those guys. And he's already made the jump. So you asked me how I feel about it. He's already made the jump. And, again, he's another guy that when he puts the pads on, you're going to see him and feel him.
Brad.
Brad Townsend, Dallas Morning News. One more family question, if you don't mind. If I'm not mistaken, so when you go back and spend time with your family, you're going to be an empty nester pretty soon? How are you?
That means I'm old, Brad. That means I'm really old. Thanks.
How are you mentally prepared for that?
I haven't really had time to think about it, to be honest with you. My wife, probably, on the other hand, she's thought about it all the time. It's we've obviously had a home in Nashville for a long time, and we're so excited to be now plugged here as Texans, I guess you call it, as part of Dallas, and. It's going to be great, and we'll figure out what we still have in common, which I'm sure is quite a bit. There'll be different conversations. We'll talk about football and our kids always, but we also have the dogs, man. There's a lot of dogs. When things go good or bad, she buys dogs, and I don't know. I really don't know why. I mean, literally, I come home and, hey, you got fired. Yeah, let's get a dog. Oh, you got hired. Let's get a dog. And so there's a lot of dogs that. So we're really not empty nesters, I guess.
Joe.
Joe Hoyt, DLL Sports. Jake Ferguson obviously dealt with a lot of injuries last year. He even talked about how having no touchdowns last year has been a motivating factor. Have you seen him motivated, Jake Ferguson, and what are your hopes and expectations for him?
Yeah, the answer is yes. I think last year's a fluke. He definitely dealt with some stuff that was hard for him. Jake's always motivated. Jake is one of those tone setters where he just plays the right way. He's one of those guys that's able to practice in this format and be competitive but not combative. But the look on his eye, the way his body looks in terms of his physique and the way he's moving has been noticeably different in a good way. He's really motivated. He's really excited. Maybe it's the fact he's getting married and he's busy with commercials and things like that. But he's been great. Man, that whole tight end group, Lunda Wells does a great job with those guys, and it's going to be a really fun battle for you guys and for us as coaches to watch the tight ends and how it play out during the training camp. But Fergie's doing great.
All righty.
Thanks, guys.